Hi everyone, my name is Maya Hampton and the substance I'll be talking about today is Salvia divinorum. Salvia divinorum is an herbal plant native to the southwest region of Oaxaca, Mexico. It's a psychoactive plant characterized by its extreme hallucinogenic effects. Until around the mid 1900s, its use was pretty much confined to the mountains of Oaxaca, and there it was used to treat a number of inflammatory conditions and chronic pain like diarrhea, headaches, and abdominal pain. The plant is also a very important part of traditional Mazatec ceremonies. The salvia plant is typically grown in black soil and is tended to by its designated medical practitioner. These practitioners undergo training in which they take samples of a harvest and experience these visions that prepare them for their role. The medical practitioner is then qualified to host the Mazatec ceremonies, but until then, they are not considered knowledgeable enough to lead others. These ceremonies are a very spiritual experience and are taken very seriously. They last about 2 to 3 hours as these patients are guided through different states of consciousness. These are very much considered medical procedures in Oaxaca, and at these ceremonies, there is always one person that does not ingest the salvia that is there to supervise and ensure the safety of everyone else. The salvia leaves are either eaten or crushed to a fine pulp with a mortar and pestle and infused in water. The leaves are rolled into tubes and swallowed, however, those that cannot stand the bitter taste are free to drink the infused tea instead. The molecule you see here is that of salvinorin A, the active component of salvia that causes the psychoactive properties. This selective opioid antagonist targets the kappa opioid receptors in our brains. It has an extremely short half-life, with most users bypassing the high by about the 15-minute mark. A study conducted by Dawn Albertson and her team of researchers allowed them to make the hypothesis that salvia is metabolized through at least two different pathways. Smoked salvia is thought to begin metabolism in the lungs, and orally ingested salvia is thought to begin metabolism in the liver. This photo you see is actually from a really cool episode of Hamilton's Pharmacopoeia on Viceland, where Hamilton, which is this guy that you see here, actually traveled to Oaxaca to experience a traditional Mazatec ceremony. And there are some clips on YouTube and on the Vice site, so if you're interested, I'd check that out. It's actually pretty cool. Consumption of Salvia divinorum has been known to cause phenomena like vivid colors and shapes, extreme hallucinations, slurred speech, and in some cases you may even temporarily lose your ability to speak altogether, and body distortions. This is because the leaves contain that opioid-like salvinorin A that promotes these symptoms. To confirm some of these symptoms, Phil Delgarno conducted an experiment in 2007 that found that the effects of salvia are reported to be similar to that of the widely known club drug ketamine. An email interview was sent to 10 participants that contained a series of questions regarding use and experience with the drug. All reported some form of change in visual perception, somatic sensation, or perception of reality. He noticed that those with some knowledge about the historical use of salvia seemed to have a fuller experience than those that did not. Another double-blind, placebo-controlled experiment administered 16 ascending doses of salvinorin A to 4 psychologically and physically healthy hallucinogen-using adults. Subjects were asked to rate drug strength every 2 minutes for 60 minutes post-inhalation. Results allowed researchers to conclude that salvinorin A provides dose-related effects because comments describing dissociation and visual distortion increased with drug strength. The mystery of salvia still lies in the effects of its long-term use, as its use is more of a recent phenomenon. That being said, a number of individual case studies raise alarm due to potential psychological risk. Prescott and Lee recounted the case of a 21-year-old man admitted to a psychiatric unit with acute psychosis and paranoia after inhalation of salvia. The man, who they called Mr. J, had no personal or family history of physical or psychological abnormalities. However, he was not able to be stabilized without the use of a highly sedative medication. Other case studies have explored the cases of a 17-year-old girl a 17-year-old female with bipolar disorder that experienced prolonged hallucinations and self-destructive behaviors after using salvia, and a 15-year-old young man that experienced paranoia, excessive deja vu, thought blocking, and slowed speech for approximately 3 days after use. These studies are evidence of a potential psychological risk of using Salvia Divinorum that should be studied further in the future. Despite these fear-inducing case studies, Salvia Divinorum has shown quite a bit of clinical potential. We've taken notes from the Mazatec peoples and tested its ability to treat various ailments and conditions. We already knew that Mazatec people have used this plant to treat inflammatory conditions and pain, but further studies are warranted to develop the compound for clinical use. Another pair of scientists, Renyu Liu and John Grathuson, led a study in which a piglet model was used to visualize cerebral vascular dilation in response to salvinorin A. It was discovered that salvinorin A worked to dilate cerebral veins and arteries in pathological conditions induced by hypocarbia, which is reduced carbon dioxide in the blood, and endothelins, which are vasoconstricting peptides. Salvinorin A was found to be fast-acting, it demonstrates very easy passage through the blood-brain barrier, and is very potent, making it a great potential candidate for stroke medications. Salvia is legal in many states across the US, but unfortunately, because salvia isn't very regulated, not much can be done in terms of clinical studies. It doesn't really follow ethical guidelines to administer a drug that we don't know enough about in a lab setting. An experiment carried out in 2012 even discovered that, as a result of lack of regulation, dosing is oftentimes inaccurate and may present more risk. 5 salvia products containing salvinorin A were purchased from the internet and local drug paraphernalia shops. Each sample underwent rounds of liquid chromatography, thin layer chromatography, gas chromatography, and mass spectrometry for content analysis. All 5 samples contained salvinorin A, but at much different levels than what was advertised. Traces of vitamin E and caffeine were found in 2 of the products, so all were determined subpotent with adulterants. Any mislabeling or discrepancy between advertised and actual dose may increase likelihood of misuse. In 2002, Representative Joe Baca attempted to place Salvia Divinorum and salvinorin A in Schedule I at the federal level. He proposed a bill in regards to the Controlled Substances Act, however it did not pass. Hopefully in the future, legislation is passed to control the production and distribution of Salvia Divinorum so that more information can be gathered. Salvia Divinorum is a very potent hallucinogenic plant and should be regulated so that recreational use is safe and fully informed, and the plant can be repurposed for much more than just a short-term high. Thank you.